chronic stress is impacting the sleep. It's impacting your weight. It's impacting your moods. It's impacting your metabolic health. It's impacting everything. So when we say you've got to do some stress management, everyone goes, yeah, I'll do it. I'll get to it. And they don't. This is how important it really is, because you can give all the supplements in the world and all the things in the world. If you're not doing the foundational stuff to try to balance, to try to relax your stress nervous system, then nothing else is really going to work overly well.
Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Nicole and Steve, and today we're talking about stress.
Stress, Steve.
Anxiety.
One of the most common complaints, ailments, conditions, I guess, if you want to call it a condition, that we see in modern day life, really, isn't it?
It's crazy. It's everywhere. It really is quite, and it's funny because stress, we all know kind of what it is. It's worrying about an exam, worrying about your mortgage, worrying about this, or physical stress. You can go under chemical stresses, all sorts of different stresses. But definitionally, what are we talking about? What actually is stress? What do we define it as?
So stress is anything that creates an imbalance in your body.
Yep. Okay.
So, and stress can be different things for different people.
Yep.
So what might stress you may not stress me, and vice versa. You know what I mean? We have
so
all
true.
different levels of resilience. We have different levels of imbalances or different, states of imbalance in our body. So someone might be really resilient to some sort of emotional stress, whereas somebody else may not cope with that well at all. So,
exactly.
So it's whatever for you that creates an imbalance.
And stress is, like my wife went to the dentist yesterday, completely stressed her out. I go to the dentist and think, when's this over? And also, how much is this going to cost me? But I don't worry about the stress of it. It's like it's a dentist. They're going to fix something that's going to walk out better than you're in. I don't know. I know there's people who stress about it, but I don't stress about it. I stress about other things. Clothes shopping. I can't stand it.
Yeah, that's true.
You probably love it.
No, I hate it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you do.
I hate it, yeah. No one ever goes clothes shopping with me.
No.
It's a horrendous experience.
Now you mentioned something here, homeostasis.
Yes.
What the hell is that word?
So homeostasis just means maintaining a steady state or balance within the body. So the body's always trying to keep things in balance.
Yeah.
So, and that's where things our body does things and we think, that's just something's wrong. No, the body's trying to counter something else.
Yep.
So it's always trying to keep everything nice and even. So things like physiologically, like maintaining temperature balance, so 36.8 degrees in the body, or maintaining blood sugar regulation, that type of thing. That's what homeostasis is, trying to maintain that balance.
Exactly. It's a hot day out there today, and that's why I'm wearing a T-shirt. But it's quite cool in here. Yeah. So if I get too cold, I'll start shivering, which is my body resisting that change, trying to remain homeostatic, because I'm a mammal. I'm not a lizard. My body has to be at a certain temperature or I get hypothermia.
That's right.
So that's what homeostasis is about, and if I drink that's not sugary, of course, but if it was sugary, my body would pump out insulin to counteract the sugars in here. So that's homeostasis at work. And when I picked up a weight this morning, my body gets into alignment so that's homeostasis. Absolutely. So it's about maintaining health and that sort of thing.
Maintaining health and balance, and that's what the body's always in the background trying to do, no matter what we do. So it's a lot of time we're fighting against our body's ability to try to keep everything nice and balanced. So and that's when things can go wrong, when this stress, and we will talk about what stress is, physiology, where it comes from, good stress, bad stress, that sort of thing, perceived stress versus real stress.
Now, just stop there. Real stress. Because people think every stress is real. Yeah. Because it kind of is.
It kind of is. Well, it is for them.
There's a perceived stress too. So and that's not something tangible. So what are those two? What's a real stress and what's a perceived stress?
Yeah. So I mean, we've all heard about the fight or flight, and we'll go into that a little bit more, and how the tiger's chasing and you've got to run.
Yep.
So your body does not distinguish between any type of stress whatsoever. It just thinks if you're stressed, you're in danger. And so it has the same physiologically responses no matter what. So a real stress is something like blood sugar dysregulation, temperatures, things like that in the body that are actually a physical stressor. And then perceived stress is things like mortgage repayments, relationship issues, workplace problems, those types of things. So they're not actually something physically happening in your body, but your body has the same reaction.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of reaction, we have to talk about our mate cortisol.
Yeah.
Our enemy cortisol. It's not, you need it to live. So we're going to pick on cortisol a bit here.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about other hormones. Now, the stress response in the body is a huge one. I printed off a beautiful colour diagram here on.
And I like the way you did it my size too, because my eyes are terrible.
Yeah, well, that's why. There's your big one. But I mean, there's all these hormones involved in stress, and as you can see, there's physical stresses and there's emotional stresses, and they're the same reaction in the body.
Exactly.
Because you've got to remember that the relationship problems and financial problems, the big problems that we've got today, weren't really around when we were living in a cave and that sort of thing.
That's right.
The relationships were quite basic.
Yeah,
it's like girl, reproduce, this sort of thing.
It wasn't our own cave. We didn't have to
and we didn't have a mortgage on the cave.
That's right.
We didn't have power bills on the cave.
Yeah.
So it's still a real. The psychology stuff's still real.
Yeah, completely.
But and it's still it's probably the worst one for humans these days, because as I said, we're in an air conditioned room here. It's nice, and if we were doing this outside, I'd be sweating to maintain homeostasis, sweat to cool down.
Exactly.
So this is really interesting. Now, do you want to just sort of outline sort of what happens when we get stressed, whether it's real or perceived or psychological, or what happens in the body physiologically?
Yeah. Okay. So first we'll talk about the adrenal glands.
Okay.
And everyone knows, I've heard of adrenal glands. So they're little triangle glands that sit on top of your kidneys.
Yep.
And that's where our stress hormones come from.
Okay.
So we do produce cortisol.
Yep.
So there's a few different areas in our adrenal glands. There's the adrenal cortex and the adrenal medulla.
Gee, where does cortisol come from?
I wonder. So probably from the adrenal cortex.
Oh, that's where it gets its name from.
That's where it gets its name from. So so cortisol comes from the adrenal cortex, which is the outer layer of the adrenal gland, and then we have an inner layer, which is the medulla. Right. So cortisol and DHEA and DHEAS comes from the cortex.
Yep.
And then and aldosterone as well. So that's involved in the sodium regulation, fluid regulation, blood pressure, that type of thing.
Okay.
And then we have the medulla we produce our catecholamines.
So adrenaline, noradrenaline.
Yeah, noradrenaline. And they used to be, they call it epinephrine and epinephrine and norepinephrine, or adrenaline, noradrenaline.
That's right.
So they're produced in the medulla. So, so that's sort of that's where all the stuff happens.
That's the action happens. Now, they don't act independently.
They don't act independently.
Surely something's got to do with our brain. It's got to go through our brain, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So all stress doesn't begin in the ovaries. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So stress doesn't start in the adrenal glands. It actually starts in the brain.
Yeah.
So the brain is the master signaler. So it's what tells our body to turn on our stress response, release our stress hormones and things like that.
So going back a million years, I turn around, I look, and there's a saber-toothed tiger bounding across the grass to come and get me. So my brain goes, that's a stress.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
So then that switches things on. So everyone's heard of the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis.
Yes, that's it.
So it starts in the hypothalamus.
Yes.
So the hypothalamus sends out corticotrophin releasing hormone.
Yep.
From the periventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus.
Yeah.
So then that sends a signal to the pituitary gland.
Yep.
And then the pituitary gland releases something called adrenocorticotropic hormone.
Yep. ACTH.
ACTH. That sends a signal down to the adrenal glands. Yep. And then the adrenal glands release cortisol. So there's a bit of a process. And adrenaline.
Of course.
And adrenaline, yes.
Because we go, holy, can't swear, but there's a big saber-toothed tiger bounding at me.
Yeah.
So adrenaline goes up, which of course increases my heart rate. The cortisol comes out to release sugars into my blood, so I'm ready to fight or flight. In this case, I'm going to flight.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to attack this big saber-toothed tiger thing with these big fangs hanging down.
Yeah.
So I'm running.
Yeah.
And I'm bolden. And I need all the adrenaline I can get and all the sugar I can get. So I'm off and to survive this event.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, it is good.
Good. Stress is good there.
Stress, and we have to distinguish that stress is good and cortisol is good.
Yes.
If it's functioning the way it's supposed to function.
Yep.
That's where we have dysregulation that we start to see problems. We will talk about what cortisol does that's good and what can happen if we have too prolonged cortisol release.
Okay. So I bolt away from this thing. It either gets me and kills me or I get back to the cave. So I get back to the cave.
Yeah.
And I'm safe.
Yeah.
So what happens then?
So generally everything will slow down and get back to normal.
Okay.
So everything normalizes. And that's why I think we mentioned this in another podcast about there's a book out called Why Don't Zebras Get Ulcers?
Yeah, I remember that book.
Yeah, because animals, they have that stress response and then they go back to normal. Everything calms down, everything goes, and the danger's over and they go back to normal. Humans, the stress response, our perceived stress does not go down, and that's when it becomes chronic.
All right. So speaking of another type of stress, I'm on my phone and I'm looking up my finances and I'm going, oh, shit, this is not adding up. My mortgage is massive. It's a 30-year mortgage, say, and I'm not on a big wage, let's say, and you know, it's stress.
Yeah.
So this stuff still happens. So cortisol's still released, adrenaline, I get that heart rate. Oh, God, geez, how am I going to pay my... And so I'm stressed, but it doesn't last 10, 15 minutes at rest. It lasts 30 years.
That's right.
You know, years. It could last for years.
It could last your whole life. Some people are stressed their whole lives.
And we still get this response.
Yeah.
So let's reiterate. You still get the adrenaline that increases your blood pressure, tightens the blood vessels.
Yeah. So adrenaline is an instant response.
Yes.
So adrenaline's instant, whereas cortisol isn't an instant release. So it can take up to 10 minutes to release cortisol. So that's where we have that adrenaline and noradrenaline. And they're actually they're signal from the brain down the spinal cord, and that's sent out into the body, and that's an instant response. So say you touch a hot stove and you pull your hand off straight away. That's adrenaline, and then that racing heart straight away, or someone spooks you from behind and you get that racing heart. That's because adrenaline instantly gets sent out.
Yes.
And then the cortisol comes in later and starts to do what it's supposed to do. So,
which is negative feedback, which restores back to homeostasis.
That's right.
But yeah, it really is an interesting physiological response. But and it's great for the 10, 15-minute saber-tooth thing, but for years or months or weeks even, this chronic stress, this cortisol comes out and does all sorts of things. Remember, cortisol suppresses serotonin in the brain.
Yeah.
So you don't feel as... Because you got to remember, that's a healthier response if it's a saber-tooth tiger, because you don't want a serotonin in your brain while it's a saber-tooth tiger. Oh, it'll be all right. It's a nice kitty. Come here, kitty. Nice, relax. Exactly. Serotonin. And you're dead. So from a human evolution point of view, that wouldn't be a good response.
Not great, no.
But this chronic, that's unlikely. We're unlikely to be chased by something these days. Yeah. If you go swimming and you get taken by a shark, maybe. But rarely, right? Yeah. Pretty rare that you get killed by one of those things, because we're at the top of the food chain now.
Yes, we are.
So we have these chronic sort of things going on with all these chemicals in the body, and that can be very, very dangerous. So let's look at the HPA axis in a bit more detail and about the cortisol. Let's just talk about cortisol, and we'll go back, because that's a chronic one that's released all the time.
Yeah.
What you said it's reduced by adrenal glands. What does cortisol do in the physiology of the body?
So what does cortisol do? So cortisol, so it's a glucocorticoid, which is a steroid hormone essentially that utilizes sugars and fats for energy.
Right.
So that's what it is. It has an anti-inflammatory response.
Yes.
It can influence the immune system. And take note of all these things, because this is important when we come to chronic stress.
Yes.
So this is basically the function of cortisol in a healthy body that has a healthy response and then calms back down again.
Yeah.
So it's also released, like we said, if we've got issues with homeostasis, low blood pressure, low blood sugar, that sort of thing. So that's why, interesting, I made a note of, that's why fasting can have a negative effect in some people.
Ooh,
if you do long fasts,
yeah.
people are going to shoot me. But, I mean, we've gone on about this before.
Yeah.
Fasting, some people can do it fine and other people can't. If you're highly stressed, it's not such a good idea.
No.
That's because of that release of cortisol, because it is a stressor on the body, so it has to create homeostasis.
Yeah.
So it also blocks insulin to keep glucose in the blood, so that we can have that instant sugar energy. So we can have energy. It breaks down glucose from the fat cells and liver cells to use as energy. Yep. It reduces protein uptake. So it diverts it to gluconeogenesis.
So we break down proteins?
Yep. So we can have that for fuel as well. So,
and I mean, you mentioned it suppresses the immune system.
Yeah.
Because you don't need immunity when you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger. You don't give a shit about it.
No.
Well, for months and weeks you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So short term you don't.
Yep.
Increases blood pressure. So that pumps blood to the extremities so you can run. Improves focus.
Yep.
So that you can concentrate on getting away from whatever's trying to kill you. That's it, more alert.
Which is great for the tiger, bad for the mortgage.
Yeah, that's it. Improves your eyesight as well. So clearly you need to be able to see where you're going if you're not got to run away from something. So all of these reactions have a very significant purpose in the body. So cortisol is great. We need it. We don't want to get rid of it.
Nope.
We don't want to drop it too low.
Nope.
We just don't want to have it too high for too long. Not for prolonged periods.
So, this is interesting because short periods is actually beneficial because you go to the gym.
Yeah.
You reduce adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. And short term, it's great because it's a stress on your body going to the gym.
It is, yeah.
It's supposed to stress you out. You're sitting under, lots of weight. For me, I'll do a Ronnie Coleman, 100 kilo each dumbbell, a lot of stress on.
Yes.
It's not 100. Actually, about a fifth of that. Literally a fifth. You remember that Ronnie Coleman video? He's got 200-pound dumbbells. They're ludicrous.
Yeah. Have you seen the Ronnie Coleman documentary? And he's now on, had so many back surgeries and things. But anyway, it's a whole other story.
We love Ronnie.
We do love Ronnie. So acute stress is beneficial. And if anyone's listened to the anti-aging podcast we did a while ago, we talk about short-term stress, and it's very beneficial. So it's like, you don't improve if you're not under stress, and it's same for your body. You need some stress. So acute stress, yes. So
Good.
Short-term cortisol release is anti-inflammatory.
Good, more with that.
Yep. Obviously, you have more of ability to fight things, resilience,
stress,
get on with it. You have increased focus.
Good.
So that's great, and a lot of people love increased focus. It has increased blood pressure, as we said, increased heart rate, which pushes the blood out, decreased digestive function, which we'll talk about
digestion
because you're
when
not going to be eating while you're running away from something.
No.
Decreased sex hormone response because, again, you don't want to be doing other things, stopping to do other things.
You don't think of shagging when you're running from the tiger, do you? You
don't want to be doing that. And then a decreased immune response, as you said, Steve.
Well, all those things are cool.
Yeah, so they're all fine, and we can understand the reason why. So if you're running from something, these functions are there for a reason.
Yes.
And then they're not a bad thing. So we want to do that. But the flip side of that is...
what's long-term? Long-term.
So any chronic stress...
Yes.
And this is going to sound familiar. This will sound familiar to people when we explain what happens with some of these effects. So insulin dysregulation.
They're more prone to diabetes and sugar problems.
Yeah.
Can't control their diet because their sugars are over the place. They crave sweets. Terrible.
Exactly. So people who are under chronic stress and they say, well, I don't know why. I can't stop eating. I have sugar cravings. I'm putting on weight. So this is the reason why this chronic stress, cortisol dysregulation, blood sugar dysregulation. As I said, I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm like stumbling today because I'm just really, maybe my stress levels is too low. I need a bit of
a bit more sugar. Hey, I've got some. I won't say what that is, but it's a drink.
Another one of your concoctions.
It is, and it tastes great too.
In the kitchen with the stuff in there.
It is.
So weight gain specifically around the middle, and that's that insulin. So people say, oh, that cortisol weight.
Cortisol
belly, that's insulin. So that's because that blood sugar dysregulation and we gain the weight around the middle.
And that's significant because a lot of women suffer that. You see them out there and they've got this belt of fat around there, and it's most women don't, but a lot of women do, and it's quite disheartening because it means bad health.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, we didn't really talk about the reason we wanted to do this podcast is because we have to point out the importance of stress management because this chronically stressed society that we live in is creating a lot of these problems. So weight gain, metabolic syndrome, all that sort of stuff, digestive issues, which then lead on to more imbalances. And people don't put enough emphasis on the fact that their stress is really impacting their health. So we want to try to get people to control their stress responses. Obviously, we don't want to alleviate stress altogether.
No.
Control the responses, manage it a little bit better so that we can rebalance the body and reduce some of these chronic diseases and conditions that we're seeing now. So
and you mentioned before, apart from the weight, the immune suppressor, so people are getting sick all the time.
Yeah, getting sick all the time, or what I see in clinic is the opposite, is if it's suppressed for such a long time. One of my questions in clinic is how often would you get sick? How often would you get a cold? Would it be once or twice a year? Would it be more? Would it be less? And a lot of people say, I don't ever get sick.
Yeah.
Hardly ever. I can have people in the family that are sick, my kids, my wife, my husband, whatever. I never really get it.
It's a bit of a worry, isn't it?
That they are healthier.
Yeah.
And I said, that's actually a worry.
Yes.
Because it's indicating that possibly your immune system is actually suppressed because, as you guys have said previously in podcasts, it's not the bug that gives you the symptoms. No. It's your immune system's response to the bug.
Exactly. Interleukin 2.
Exactly. So if you're not responding to a bug and you think, oh, I'm not sick, but the bug could be in there doing its thing, and that's what they say, and this isn't obviously for everybody, but chronic stress and immune suppression, that's where people can develop cancers and things because there's no defense mechanisms going on in the body.
No.
So that's a really big one. Chronic fatigue.
Oh,
is
that's
really
a shock.
big one.
People have just got no energy for anything.
Yeah.
You know, and you see this when you talk to people. It's like they've got all these symptoms. They're out of whack. They get fat around the middle, and they say, "Why don't you do exercise?" And they look at you like,
"Yeah,
what?
Yeah, how can I have any energy to exercise?"
And it's the best thing for them.
Yeah.
But they and then they talk about, you know, crazy things. I was at a social gathering, and there were two people there that were unemployed, didn't have a job for various reasons. One was married to someone and stay-at-home wife, but they said, well, who's got time for that? Because they were so...
Who's got time to exercise when you're not working?
Yeah. And there was two people saying the same thing, and I went, and this is where they sort of picked it, you know, they fit this picture too. Actually.
And we will talk about different types of exercises because you can actually do too much exercise and cause an issue as well. So you want to have the right balance. Yeah,
spoke to Ronnie Coleman about this.
I know. but a little bit of exercise definitely. And for chronic fatigue, it's one of the prescriptions is get out and start doing a little bit of walking. Yeah. That can be really helpful. And we'll talk about the reasons why, how fatigue is related to stress and why. Mm-hmm. But gastrointestinal issues, as I said. So we have two sides of our autonomic nervous system. We have our parasympathetic and our sympathetic. Mm-hmm. So our sympathetic is our fight or flight or freeze. So that's the one that we're talking about. Most people are in. The majority of the time, people are in that sympathetic dominant state the majority of the time. Then we have the parasympathetic side, which is our rest, digest, regenerate. So
that's it.
It's in the wording.
I knew there's a wording there.
Yeah.
I just got to rest, digest, but regenerate's really good too.
Yeah, so that's when your body... It isn't having to fight everything. It can stop and it can repair. And the amount of clients I see in clinic that have gut issues and they have a lot of stress and they won't connect the two. And we've talked about in other podcasts how if you're not in a relaxed state when you eat, you're more inclined to have bloating and all that sort of thing, and then leading into other conditions because you are in that sympathetic state. So your body is shutting down the acid and enzyme production because it's diverting things to elsewhere to run. Mm-hmm. So that chronic stress can really impact the gut, which then leads on to, as we said, many other conditions if the gut's imbalanced for long enough. So that's a really big one. Cardiovascular concerns is another one. Yeah. So it really puts a lot of pressure on the heart if you're in that chronically stressed state. Here's the other big one what do we see all the time, Steve-O?
Oh, there it is. I can see it.
Sex hormone imbalances. All the time. So infertility issues, irregular periods for women, low testosterone for men, low libido for men and women. And that's because the same thing. The body is doing what it's supposed to do in a stress response, but in a chronic state, this all becomes very dysregulated, and then we have all these problems.
You've got to remember that cortisol and testosterone, estrogen and progesterone are all made from the same chemical.
Yes.
Which is cholesterol.
Yes.
So you're going to be making loads of cortisol. You're not going to be making loads of testosterone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's quite common that this is the case, and people put it down and think there's something wrong with them, and there is. It's chronic stress.
Yeah.
And stress is a huge one.
It's a huge one, and people don't, like I said, they don't put enough value on it. And it can be frustrating because you're trying to get across to clients and other, you know, whoever you're talking to. Stress is a big part of this. Stress is a major driver, but because people are so chronically stressed, it's become their norm. Yep. And a lot of them say, "No, I'm not really stressed." Okay, so do you have time to sit down for 10 minutes and do some deep breathing? I haven't really had a chance to do that. I've got so much on at work, and then I've got the kids when I get home, and then I've got to get up in the morning, and then I've got to get going. I haven't got time to do this. I said, okay, so, but you're not stressed. You don't feel stressed because it becomes second nature to them. But this is driving a lot of their conditions, and a lot of their conditions will not improve until they work on the stress.
Absolutely. I mean, and you know, case in point of two people I met, they just can't do anything. They can't fathom doing exercise because it's beyond their realm. It's too much for them, and it's the best thing for them. Yeah. And it's like you know, and of course it's easier to stay in your comfort zone, but nothing good grows there. No. You know that saying. It's like you're in this little bubble and life's in a rut is what they are because they're very stressed and that sort of thing, and it's a terrible situation to be in. And it's like, well, you can get up and do a bit of exercise. You know, you can do all these sorts of things. But I want to hit you up. I was on the interwebs, you know, like I was looking up my favourite websites. You know,
Twitter Face is my partner.
Twitter Face and face plant and all those other. I don't know what that.
I don't know. He doesn't.
But I see adrenal fatigue everywhere.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, adrenal fatigue. I've got adrenal fatigue. Everybody's got adrenal fatigue.
Everyone's got
the hell's this?
fatigue.
What's with adrenal fatigue?
Okay, so adrenal fatigue, there's always been a lot of contention around between the orthodox medical, sort of fraternity and naturopaths and adrenal fatigue. So adrenal fatigue really isn't a thing. The adrenals don't fatigue. They don't go, you know what, I've been stressed for so long, don't have the capacity anymore.
Yeah.
There's no cortisol left. I'm done. Like I'm shutting down. Doesn't really happen.
It doesn't happen because if that person was sitting there who can't exercise and I pulled a knife out and chased them, they would run.
Yes, exactly.
They would run, wouldn't they? They'd run.
Yeah.
They'd run. So it's like if your adrenals were screwed, you'd sit there and go, stab me.
Yeah.
But no one does that.
Yeah. Well, we should premise. Sorry, I cut you off there, Steve.
Sorry.
There is only two times when that would happen.
Oh, okay.
Addison's disease. Cushing's disease.
And Cushing's, yeah.
So Addison is your inability to produce cortisol, and then Cushing's is too much production, and that's a whole other thing. So that's not what we're talking about.
They get the Bert Newton face. Oh,
they do.
That's an old reference. So, the Dowager's hump. Yeah. The moon face. Everyone know moon face, or is he?
Maybe only people our age, Steve.
You mean my age? You're only 28.
That's right.
I
know he's no longer with us, but that's another one that's gone. It's like, you know, you're getting old when all the people you grew up watching on TV
I went on the Bert Newton show in 04. That was 20 years.
You know what? Why does that not even surprise me, Steve?
I was talking about health too. So that was good.
You? Oh, you weren't doing an act? No. Who would know?
But it was quite funny
accolades.
Because, you know, we talked about some things off camera about hair, and he goes, "Oh, look, I'm as bald as a thing," and I didn't know that.
He had the wig for a long time.
I didn't know that at that point.
No.
He was bald and he looked so good.
I know, it sounds like
Handsome,
Andre
man.
Agassi with his wig.
Remember that? I remember Andre Agassi.
And then he came out with and that's why he wore the headband.
Yeah.
He used to be, and he did a documentary on it or a book, I can't remember. And he said he was always scared that the wig was going to fall off during a game.
It's just
just embrace
the baldness.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Or listen to our podcast on how to help your hair. Even essential oils help.
That's right.
Hemp oil.
That's right. We haven't talked about how that little project went, Steve. We have to follow up on that.
I forgot to mention it in the meeting. The hair. Yeah,
the hair thing. So
it's adrenal fatigue. Yeah.
So it's not really a thing.
Nah.
So the name should be, and this is what we say now, we don't say adrenal fatigue, is HPA axis dysregulation generally, because it's just a dysregulation in this whole cycle. So, you know, there's the brain to the adrenals, as we talked about, it's a negative feedback loop. So it'll go on for a bit. And then if it's it's chronic, then there is no time for the adrenals to stop and reset because they're continually getting, prompted to pump out these hormones. So eventually the brain will shut off that messenger. And then the adrenals obviously aren't going to produce the cortisol because they don't have the messenger. Yeah. And the brain's doing that because it's just too much. Yeah. So it then becomes either could be a dysfunction in the HPA, like the pituitary hypothalamus area, or it could be a glandular issue. But it's never a inability, unless you have Addison's, to produce cortisol.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just comes along because of chronic stress.
Yeah, you get the Homer Simpson syndrome. It's like, and he works in Sector 7G and he's stressed all day because he's got no money and he's just all worn out from the kids being brats, Bart being a brat, and, it's like, and he says the saying that I hate that everyone says about this, it is what it is like, no, you can change it. And it's like, and then they're in this rut and they mope around. And this is terrible. This is a really bad state for people being in, and it's everywhere.
Yeah,
they just get too much stress, too overwhelmed, and they just sort of give up on getting themselves out of the hole. Yeah, and you see that with weight, you see that with life, you see that with finance, you see it with everything. And that's why these Tony Robbins guys, he's still alive. Yeah, he's still alive. Yes, he goes around and gets people out of these things and awakens the giant within, which is a book that he talks about, which is about get yourself out of it. Don't rely on handouts. I think everyone says that if you're on a pension, the best thing for someone on a pension, for example, in a financial rut, is to get off the pension. Yes. Not to try and get for more pension, but to get off so you can be self-sustaining. I love that message. Yeah.
There's an analogy I love. I heard it ages ago, and I love this.
I love it.
And this pertains to stress with a lot of people too, because what we didn't talk about, we are going to talk about some solutions. So hang in there. It's not all doom and gloom if you are suffering chronic stress. There is some things you can do. It is for a little bit more, but there's an analogy. Just hang until the end. Yeah. But we wanted to point out the physiology of it all because it makes it easier to relate it back to if someone's saying to you, you need to do stress management activities or stress management for your chronic stress. If they go, oh, I understand why my digestive system's terrible and I've now moved on to this condition, or why I'm so fatigued, I'm now moving into chronic fatigue syndrome and different things. If they can understand why that's happening, they're more likely to go, okay, I understand the importance of managing my stress more. So the analogy I had is there was an old man sitting on the porch in America, I imagine in America, and he had his dog out sitting beside him. And there was someone chatting to him, and every time the dog moved, it would groan. And the guy eventually said to the old man, what's wrong with your dog? Every time it moves, it groans. He said, oh, he's sitting on a nail. And he said, well, why doesn't he get up and move? And he said, because the pain's not enough to make him move yet. It's not intense enough. Yeah. And that's what I kind of connect that to stress, is people are stressed and they have starting to have all these imbalances, but it's not enough for them to go, you know what, I need to reevaluate my life. I need to reevaluate my work-life balance. I need to drop some stuff off so I can improve my health. They're not there yet. So the pain's there, but it's just not enough for them to do anything about it.
And it's too chronic.
Yeah.
Dog's been long on a nail for years in some cases.
Yeah.
And they just don't have that up and go. And people look in and go, but you're sitting on a nail.
Yeah. And all you got to do is get up and move.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
But it's very hard for people to do that. So we're going to give you some strategies to implement to start to work your way into moving into that more, do something about it.
Well, I know a saying that sort of relates to this. You and I love it. It was a thing about men. It was not my saying, and it's been around forever, but it's strong men create good times.
Yeah.
Good times create weak men.
Yes.
And weak men create bad times.
Yes. Have a think about that.
That's a long
think about it.
and it's all right. It's man, but it's sexist, whatever.
Human, you could say. Human.
But you see that so often.
Yeah.
And the good times means you can relax, and when you relax, take your foot off the gas, you slip into some sort of rut, and then because you're in the rut, the hard times come along because there's reality, bills and whatever else it is, financial or whatever it is, job, and all of a sudden you've created bad times.
Well, you're in the rut. I mean, how hard is it to get out of a rut? Say if you're skiing, for instance, and you're going down and you got the tracks, and then someone comes down behind you and they go down the same tracks and the next one, and how do you're going to keep flipping into that same rut? So
I'm on a four-wheel drive. I know all about driving in ruts. Let me tell you about it. It smashes the under.
So you've got to get out of the rut. So it's easy to start. You got to take that first step to do it. Yeah, like anything, you got to just take. And
people, and you got to remember that only people that want to change are babies with a wet nappy.
That's perfect. Oh, I haven't heard that one, Steve.
I'm coming out with them today. But it's true, because you say, well, why don't you change your life? I go, change. Yeah. Little comfort zone. Oh, no, I like it. This time I do this and that time I do that. And I like it. It's like, yeah, but what about the world around you? Yeah. What about the people around you? What about the loved ones? What about the people who rely on you? Yeah. It's very unusual that adults don't have anyone relying on them. Yeah. It's like it doesn't work like that. No. It's very self-centered. And people can see that, but these people lying on the nail can't. No, they don't.
And they won't. And we're probably going to be harsh, and we're a little bit harsh, Steve, but we've both been in clinic. We've both treated patients before. You can never improve your situation if you don't take control and make decisions to do it. You can't get someone else to do it for you. Yes. You can get the tools. Someone can give you the tools, but if you don't do it yourself, you're never going to get out of your situation. And it's like the same thing with stress. If you don't start to work on this stress management, then you're going to continue down a really bad path. Oh, and that's what bugs me about these lose weight quick things, the Ozempics. The Ozempics. That's a classic example of people dying to get that stuff so as they can take responsibility out of their own hands to get up and go for a walk. Yeah. It's like, are you serious? Yeah. This is like, you really, and walking or exercise reduces stress and improves wellness. And it's like, and this stuff has terrible side effects in your gut and all sorts of, increases the risk of thyroid cancer too. Yeah. That's on the label now. Yeah, it's like, so this stress thing's a real danger for people to getting themselves in the rut. It's really dangerous.
Now, I mentioned about energy before because you talk to these people and they're looking for the Oh, I guess I can afford to inject myself once a week with the Zen. but it's energy. Let's talk about energy. And in our cells, we have mitochondria, which produce energy.
Yep.
So how does stress impact our mitochondria?
Okay, so short term, when we talk about acute stress, and this is where we have a positive effect.
Yep.
So it increases mitochondrial biogenesis, so it creates more mitochondria. Mitochondria, we've talked about in the past, are where we produce our ATP, so they're our energy center. So the more we have, the more energy we're going to have. So creates more energy. Oxidative phosphorylation enzyme activities.
That's a final
ATP.
step of respiration. Yep.
Yep. So that increases that, which all leads to more mitochondria. So the reason being, because if you're trying to run away from something, you need the energy to do that. So the body is increasing that energy production. So
just stop. Sorry to interrupt you, but that means that exercise gives you energy.
Yeah, so that's how, and we talked about this in the anti-aging podcast too, is to why when you start exercising, I'm quite puffed. You do the same thing a few days in a row and then you're less puffed doing the same thing. And that's because you're making mitochondria.
Yes.
So you're making more little batteries, I call them, and that helps to give you more energy. So that's how exercise increases your energy because you're making more mitochondria.
Yeah, so when people say to me they haven't got the energy to exercise, I look at them going, well, you really need to exercise.
You can make it.
You can make your own. This way.
Yeah.
And then it's too difficult to understand because people think of energy as something that's spent.
Yes.
And these are people usually got excess body fat, so they've got plenty of stored energy. That's plenty of energy.
Yeah.
Obese people have loads of
and that's what fat is. It's just stored energy.
Stored energy.
You've just taken in too much, more than what you've expended for a lot of.
Let's go to the bad one, the chronic stress. What does that do?
So long-term stress or chronic stress. So it causes oxidative phosphorylation dysfunction.
Yeah.
So reduces that whole process with the respiration, reduces ATP production, obviously.
It loses energy,
It increases reaction oxidative,
reactive oxidative
species.
Yep.
I really need lunch, which creates oxidative stress in the body.
Yep.
So that's also a negative.
Bad.
So you have a structural deformity.
Yep.
And sort of that structural loss of the mitochondria.
Yeah.
So it can't function as well.
Cellular energy goes down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shortened telomeres, which causes advanced cellular aging.
Yep. Don't want that.
So they say stress ages you. This is why. Reduced steroid hormone production and reduced bile acid synthesis, which is also quite bad. So we need bile for cholesterol to move it around the body. We need it to get it out of the body. We need it for gut health. We need it for so many different things, for bile, thyroid, everything.
A thyroid. Now, you mentioned thyroid because everyone thinks thyroid's about metabolism. It does. What does chronic stress do to the thyroid?
So it can definitely significantly impact us. So when they say, okay, so I'm putting on weight, it must be my thyroid. My thyroid's out of whack. So it's not the thyroid's fault.
No.
The thyroid is responding. The thyroid is basically a responder organ. It responds to what's going on in the environment. So whether it's toxins coming in, whether it's stress, whether it's stress from too much energy, too much food, things like that will also impact, or too little food.
Yep.
So it's just basically adjusting to what's going on. Chronic stress can actually suppress that So we have, everybody knows T4, T3. So T4 is more the inactive thyroid hormone. It converts to T3, which is the active form.
Good.
So this basically stops that conversion, blocks that conversion, and it diverts it down the reverse T3 pathway.
Oh, reverse T3. That's like a handbrake for your thyroid.
It's a handbrake, yeah. So it's not like it used, people used to say, and as we go along, we learn new things, that it's not the same shape receptor. It just fits in backwards in the T3 sort of site. It doesn't. It's completely different.
Completely different, yeah.
But it's shunting it down that way because it doesn't know what the stress is, doesn't need to conserve energy, doesn't want to be burning a lot of fat. So it's slowing everything down. So that's how your thyroid can slow. Yeah. And then if your thyroid slows, then that can have metabolic consequences, negative metabolic consequences. So you can put on weight. You can start to have other dysfunction as well.
Depression.
Depression, yeah.
Low thyroid is classically associated with depression, like psychological depression. Yeah. So the picture of a chronic stress individual is someone who's very fatigued, who's probably putting overweight over the belly area, very, very, mitochondrial dysfunction. That happens in the brain too. So they're very, very caught in their rut. You tell them to exercise, they look like you've got three heads. I can't do that. They're stuck in this rut of poor health mental, physical, thyroid, hormonal health.
Yeah.
And it's a rut that they really can't get out of. It's really quite staggering, isn't it? You know, so it's a desperate situation with low thyroid, so they'll put on weight. So these are the sort of people who'll say, oh, I need this, and I stack on the weight. Quick, give me a Ozempic or something, you know. And it's like, you know, these are the people that are desperate for that sort of stuff. Sugar's all over the place.
Yeah.
Can't control their diet because there's sugars in there. Too tired to, you know, say prep meals for a week or something or cook up some healthy foods. It's like, quick, ring Uber Eats or bring home some hamburgers. I can't be bothered cooking tonight, you know.
Yeah. So it's not, and that's what everyone goes, you know, comes to me and says, I'm just putting on weight. It must be my thyroid.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's not the reason. Yeah. You're not putting on weight. The weight is not because of the thyroid.
No.
So the stress is creating the weight issue. The stress is creating a thyroid issue, and then that's worsening the weight issue. So people never go to get their thyroid checked if they're feeling great and not putting on weight. They're quite lean. They're healthy. They're metabolically healthy. They're not going to check their thyroid then, are they? So they're only going to check it when they're feeling horrible.
I've
they're
never had my
weight.
thyroid checked. I'm 54.
See, I have had thyroid issues. We've talked about that. I have had thyroid issues in the past when I was
I know
competing.
what caused that, yeah.
Yeah, so I lost too much weight, too much stress. I was over-exercising, which we'll talk about as well. But what can actually happen? See, I was very underweight and I had underactive thyroid. So you don't always have to be overweight. And that just goes to show it doesn't always cause weight gain. There's other factors involved in that. But it can also cause hyperthyroidism. So it can speed up your metabolism, your thyroid function a little bit as well.
Stress, yeah.
So you can lose, and I think that's more initial. Like I see it when you're really stressed. And you think I'm just losing weight for no reason and all that sort of thing. And I'm very stressed out.
It breaks down muscle tissue. So you see a lot of guys in this situation. Yeah, they become very catabolic.
Yeah, and
very sick-looking men. You've seen them with very wiry.
Yeah.
They've lost all their weight.
Yeah.
They get musculoskeletal injuries because of their hypothyroidism and gut issues.
Yeah.
And you see these guys out there like that, and they're just they're not full anymore.
Yeah.
They've just been burnt out.
Yeah,
literally.
when you think about protein synthesis, it converts it to gluconeogenesis. So we're utilising sugars and then we're pulling from our muscle to get that extra sugar if we can't get it from anywhere else, so that we have a catabolic state.
Yeah.
And we can be quite skinny and have no muscle. So, and I find that when thyroid issues can start, you can flip. You can flip from hyper to hypo and back and forth a little bit before you eventually will move into that hypothyroid state. So stress can impact the thyroid that way. So that's really significant. And as we said, then we have all those other issues that spring off from that.
Got a little bit of a soapbox thing to get off my chest.
Get on your soapbox.
What I don't like is you go to the doctor, they'll measure your thyroid, say it's low, they'll give you thyroxine. They won't know why it's low.
Yeah.
It's sort of like me saying, look, my car just ran out of fuel, okay? It's probably the fuel tank's problem. So, well, no, you probably didn't put any fuel in it. You didn't treat it right.
Yeah.
No, it's just the tank's problem because it's empty. It's just that sort of thinking, and it does my head in.
And it makes me not laugh, but they give thyroxine, but they don't look at whether there's a conversion. So if they're giving more and more T4, all they're doing is increasing T4 levels. They're not checking T3. There's still no conversion, so it's not going to do anything anyway.
I know.
So it's a waste of time. So that does my head in as well. And, they don't test. I mean, I went and had blood tests this morning because I do my yearly check list of my bloods. I just do it. And I had my full thyroid panel. I got that done. I got antibodies. I did it myself because the doctor won't do it. But that's what, that's half the thing that's missing. They measure T3. We've talked about this. They measure TSH. If that's not within range, they'll then measure T4. Yeah. And then if that's not within range, they may measure T3. But otherwise, they'll just look at TSH and go, no, you're fine. Or just T4. No, you're fine. And
the range of TSH is 0.5 to 4.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Anyway, bound to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
It's crazy. All right. So this is really, the thyroid gets affected.
Yeah.
So people are just
so they're tired.
Yeah.
Because they're not making mitochondria. They're breaking down mitochondria because of the stress. They're impacting their thyroid function, which is then going to make them more tired, all of that sort of thing. Anxiety, Steve, it comes along with when you're super stressed and you find, I'm just a lot more anxious. Why am I more anxious? And that chronic stress is contributing to that. So the blood sugar dysregulation. So blood sugar dysregulation can cause you to feel like you're anxious. So heart palpitations, you can sweat, you can shake, all that sort of thing. So a lot of the same types of symptoms as anxiety. Hyperthyroid, as we said. So if you're becoming hyperthyroid, again, you're having that speeding up and that more anxious state, so you're feeling more anxious. And then the gut. So there's a gut connection there as well. As we said, you're shutting down your production of acids and enzymes. So then you're creating imbalances in your gut. You can have then potential dysbiosis, so overgrowth of more of those pathogenic or inflammatory microbes. Some of them could say be histamine related, and then there can cause histamine issues, which can cause palpitations and dizziness and all those other things that feel like anxiety as well. So you can feel very anxious, and that is because of these mechanisms.
And then you can't sleep with too much histamine.
Can't sleep with too much histamine.
So people have insomnia with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and insomnia is another symptom of chronic stress as well.
Yeah.
So people that say, I just can't sleep, I'm just too stressed, my mind won't stop.
They can't rest and relax.
No, because their cortisol a lot of times, and we have something called, we have a cortisol pattern. So it usually sort of comes up in the morning, and then it slowly peters off in the evening. And what happens is we have melatonin and cortisol, and they work sort of like a seesaw. So as your cortisol goes down in the evening, your melatonin comes up.
Yep.
Melatonin helps with our sleep.
Yep.
If we're highly stressed, or we can look at the sleep podcast we talked about with the lights and all that sort of thing, screens at night, we shoot up our cortisol because light activates our cortisol production, which suppresses our melatonin, and then we're awake throughout the night. So that's one reason. Another reason is with this chronic stress, the blood sugar imbalances. So you go to sleep at night and your blood sugar is dropping too low. It wakes you up because it's just not right. So it wakes you up to try to eat something. So there's that fact. So the sleep factor is definitely impacted by that chronic stress as well.
Well, you're right about diurnal cortisol, and there's been literature, and they call these people that don't have the rise in the morning and don't have the fall at night, they call them flatliners.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, the literature, because these are the people that get up and they've got no energy because they couldn't get the cortisol spike, so they ignore. There's a reason why we've got high cortisol. We've got to go actually and do something.
Right.
Go out there and get your food, or go to the gym in our case, or go for a run or walk or anything. But most people just ignore that.
Yeah.
And it's like you tell them to do that and they go, what are you telling me that? So I didn't write the code of the human body.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you cortisol to go up in the morning. It does. It's nature. Go with it.
Yeah.
You go against nature and you go against your own peril.
Yeah.
So these people wake up in the morning and they're all tired and can't get going in the morning, and then at night they can't sleep.
Yeah.
They're flatliners.
They've flipped their circadian rhythm, as we talked about previously. So they're very flat in the morning and they're very high in the evening. And I have seen some cortisol diurnal patterns that go up and down.
Oh, shit.
And they're terrible. And that can be blood sugar.
Yeah.
So that can cause, obviously, if people are, and that's another thing, so people have poor diet, so their blood sugar or the insulin, becoming insulin resistant, metabolic issues. So then that's creating that stress response. So you see the cortisol spike. So
It's disaster.
Chronic stress is impacting the sleep. It's impacting your weight. It's impacting your moods. It's impacting your metabolic health. It's impacting everything. So when we say you've got to do some stress management, everyone goes, yeah, I'll do it. I'll get to it. And they don't. This is how important it really is, because you can give all the supplements in the world and all the things in the world. If you're not doing the foundational stuff to try to balance, to try to relax your stress nervous system, then nothing else is really going to work overly well.
Yeah, it's sort of like the biggest bugbear when people say to you, oh, what can I take to reduce stress? Have you heard that say?
Well, yes, exactly. Nothing's working. I can't sleep. Oh, I can't lose the weight.
Yeah.
What's the diet? I'm eating too much, or I must be eating too much. I'm eating like 1,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And they're still not losing weight. And I'm like, well, have you addressed the stress, or with the sleep? I know I work all day. I'm up super early. I have a really demanding job. I'm busy all day. I don't get home till 6, and then I've got to cook dinner, and then I've got to go to bed and do it all again. And I said, well, have you worked in some stress reduction activities throughout your day?
Yeah.
I don't have time.
Don't have time.
Can I just have something to help me sleep? I'm like, I'm giving you something to help you sleep. I'm giving you the opportunity to try to rebalance your nervous system.
Morning brisk exercising is a great thing to help you sleep.
Yeah.
So you did mention stress management activities. Can you list them? What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
What are they?
So this is, and if anyone that listens has seen me, they know I bang on about this sort of stuff.
Bang on again.
Bang on again. So when we're talking about stress management activities, so things that we can do throughout the day. So what we have to do, like I said earlier, most people are in that sympathetic nervous system state for the majority of the time. So you want to flip yourself back into that parasympathetic.
Yep.
And obviously we're in and out of both if we're having a very balanced life, in and out of both at different times of the day. So what we want to try and do is flip that skew from being primarily in that sympathetic nervous system response to having a bit more over in this calming type response. So deep breathing, I say to people, is something you can do any time of the day when you're at work. No one's going to know you're doing it. And 30 seconds of, say, box breathing, you can look it up on YouTube, can reset that parasympathetic. Even if you're only in it for 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes more than you were yesterday.
Yes.
So you can do that a couple of times a day, and anyone can do that, no excuses.
Yeah.
So that's something you can do, super easy. But any type of activity that's going to help calm your nervous system. So I have people talk about meditation and all that sort of stuff, and I say to people, a lot of people can't meditate, and I understand that. Unless you've been doing it for a long time, it can be quite challenging. But meditation is basically anything that puts you in the moment. So all that mental chatter is sort of shut down because you're enjoying what you're doing. Yeah. You're not noticing the time. You're not noticing anything else. You're just in the moment. That's meditation. So if you can't meditate, then if you have a hobby that maybe you can do on a weekend. So if you love, I don't know, fishing, or if you love going to the beach, or if you love window shopping for some people because that's their meditation, do it. Like that can be as easy as that. A hobby, you could go sit outside for 5 minutes in the sun, get some fresh air, maybe take your shoes off and put them in the grass if you're in an area where you can do that. I think that's really important, yeah. Grounding, people poo-hoo grounding, but there's actually there's evidence for it. Yeah. So you don't have to spend, an hour a day on stress management. You can start with 5-minute increments of things throughout the day, and that's all going to contribute to helping to sort of set that autonomic nervous system balance a little bit. So that's really important. Sleep hygiene, we've talked about that in the past. Super important. Again, we can give you all the pills in the world, but if you're not sort of doing anything else around sleep to help with improve your sleep, so if you're on your screens, or if you're working till late at night, or, you've got a scary movie on that's making you jump till 12 o'clock at night, or you're sitting up for as long as you can and going, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll try and get to sleep. It's not going to help. No. So you have to be vigilant. So, and you have to, again, take that responsibility and go, okay, so I have to have some sort of discipline around this. So set a bedtime and then stick with that bedtime and get used to having that bedtime every night. Yep,
you've hit the nail on the head. Control your own frigging life, adults. Yeah. Don't let just to watch the movie till late so I couldn't get up in the morning and go for my morning walk or swim. I was up late. Why? What were you doing? It was so important at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Just watching YouTube. Well, it's like great, but not 11 at night.
Yeah.
Go to bed an hour early. Get up an hour earlier.
Yeah.
Then you got time.
Yeah.
Because people say I haven't got time. It's like, well, make time. Everyone's got 24 hours.
Exactly. And we've always said that. Everyone's got 24 hours in the day. Geez. It's just how you manage that time and how much you actually want to be productive and healthy. So to be, everyone talks about the fluffy, you just do this and you'll be fine, and it's easy to be healthy. It's really, it's work. It's not hard.
No.
But it's consistency and it's being dedicated to it. So if you want to improve your health, you need to put the work in. If you don't want to improve your health, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to improve your health but you're not prepared to change some lifestyle habits, you won't improve your health. So you can't kind of have it both ways. And once you get into the habit, and it is about little increments, so start small. And then once you've got that into a routine and you feel comfortable with it, you don't think about it, then add something else and then build on it. So this is like a progressive thing over, 6 to 12 months. So if you start at the start of the year, so that's really important, and all the sleep hygiene things we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
And then exercise, as we said.
Of course.
Really super important.
It really is important.
And go with what your capacity. So if you can only go for a 5-minute walk, go for a 5-minute walk.
It's better than a 0-minute walk. It's better than
nothing, because then next week you might be able to go for a 10-minute walk.
Exactly. You're still laughing people on the couch.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly right. So just do it everything in stages. I say to some clients, all right, today you're going to do a 10-minute walk every day for the next 5 days. And then next week you're going to do a 15-minute walk every day, and the week after a 20-minute walk every day. And within a month you're doing a half-hour walk. So, and it's not like from nothing to there. So that can be really helpful. And then on the other end of the coin, people who are super stressed, I find a lot that over-exercise, and they go, this is the only way I can calm down. So I exercise. And the only reason they do that they think it's calming them down is because they're going so fast throughout the day. Yeah. They're like this. So when they exercise, they don't notice it and it feels comfortable.
Yes.
But so you have to back it off, and that people hate hearing. You've got to back your exercise off until you get your stress management under control, because otherwise you're doing more damage.
Yeah.
You know, and some people, particularly women, that say, I'm exercising, I'm doing so much exercise and I'm putting on weight, so I'm doing more exercise. I'm like, no, you got to pull it all the way back and do very minimal exercise until you get stress under control.
Got to get your stress under control.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's not, like, to me that's common sense, but it's not really, is it?
We've got so used to this fast-paced society in the modern world, and we've got to do. Yeah. And the other thing is delegate, which I guess a lot of people don't do, and I guess they find it really hard, is delegate where you can. Like if you're doing everything for everyone, delegate. I mean, other people can do stuff. Even in your work, and some people say, I have a demanding job, there's nothing I can do about it. Well, one, talk to your employer if you have an employer. I mean, some people own their own business and it's a bit more hard to control.
Oh, I remember those days. Oh,
I know those types of issues.
Yeah, I used to have those issues.
But talk to your employer and say, I need to offload some of this work, because work-life balance is super important. Everyone's all over it these days anyway, employers, because they know that they get more productivity. So have a chat to someone in your workplace if you can do that. So little things, and you don't know unless you don't ask. So, but if you're not prepared to change these things, then you have to make the choice. Do you want to keep going with the long hours, the demanding job, the high stress at the expense of your health? And if you do, then fine, but you can't have both. You've got to have a little bit of give so you can balance it out a little bit. So that's super important to look at priorities and what's most important to you and how you can work around, because you can always work around it.
You can, and no one else is going to bail you out as an adult. You're an adult now. It's time to put your big boy or girl pants on, and you've got to actually make the changes yourself.
None of this.
People outsource their life. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to outsource it for weight loss. There's this new drug, or for exercise, I'm going to just not do it and try and avoid it like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You got 200 odd muscles in your body, but I don't need to use them. Not me. I'm different. I'm too busy at work, and now I've got a bad back because I don't exercise. Sore backs are, for example, is a scourge on society because we're not exercising.
Yeah,
and the bones are sitting on top of each other like this, your vertebrae, and you think that exercise that strengthens them is going to help?
Yeah.
You talk to a carpenter about building things or a builder, and of course they're going to have reinforcements.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, no, I'm just going to sit on the couch and hope my back gets better, or hope it goes away, or I'll rely on someone else for something. It's terrible. Terrible.
So you got to take responsibility for your own health, and you do have to make some changes. So lifestyle habits definitely very, very important.
Huge.
But if you're starting to work on your lifestyle habits and you're getting all that a little bit sorted.
What do we got? What have we got?
So we've got so much in natural medicine that we can give to help with all of these things, to help to support the adrenal, support the nervous system, help to repair and regenerate, things like that. So we have plenty of really cool herbs.
Can I ask you about a few of those herbs?
Yeah.
What about skullcap, Scutellaria basilensis?
Yeah, so basilensis is the key there, Steve.
It is, because in my day it was lactophoria, which is one that just sedates you.
Yeah.
But basilensis, I mean, it's
basilensis
a Chinese one.
is different. Like, a lot of people don't use it. So a lot of people, if they're in the herbal world, know it for it's anti-allergenic. It helps with allergies and things like that. But it also has some really, really cool actions in the brain, GABAergic actions, that sort of thing, and for sleep. So did we bring that study in by any chance, Steve?
Oh, no, there was a beautiful study in 2011, in Journal of something, I can't remember. I should know that.
We forgot to bring it in.
But it has a beautiful...
We can get it for everybody.
Yeah, we can get it for everybody. It's actually got, it's got a biphasic effect in the brain. So what it means is increases slow wave sleep when you sleep, which is the deep sleep, and decreases it if there's daylight hours.
Yeah.
So if you give it to someone during the day, it'll kind of pep them up. You give it to someone in the evening, it'll put them to sleep.
Yeah. It's the classic adaptogen. It
modulates and it was scientifically shown to do this as a biphasic effect, which is remarkable, because any other sleeping thing like a benzodiazepine for your sleep, like if I give you Zolpidem right now, you'd be tired in about half an hour, very tired, probably sleepy.
Yeah.
And yet if I gave you Scutellaria basilensis, you'd be more awake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that shit.
Yeah, it's great.
Love that stuff.
So skullcap basilensis is amazing, really good for anxiety as well. And because it does have also that antihistamine action.
Yes.
It's good for if you have histamines, which can cause issues with insomnia.
Yes.
heart palpitations,
Yep.
anxious feelings, all of that sort of thing.
Yep.
But very good at calming, very, very, very good at calming. So skull cap's a really good one. Here's another one that not many people, it's not a widely used herb, but I think it's amazing, is California poppy.
Oh, we naturopaths love that one.
Yeah.
And that's an anti-anxiolytic. What else is it good for?
And it's what they call a hypnotic.
Ooh.
So it's very good at relaxing you, very, very good. It's very good for anxiety.
Yep.
Insomnia, really good for insomnia.
Yeah.
So if someone's struggling to sleep, really good to put in at the end of the day. Good for pain management is another
Yes.
one. So it's a little bit analgesic as well. So it helps with pain. So a lot of people can't sleep with pain, and pain is also a stressor, a stress activator on the body. So if you can reduce pain, that's really good. Emotional stress, that type of thing. So yeah, California poppy is another.
And what about some of the more classic sleepy things like passion flower or
so
passiflora?
passiflora is one of my favourite. Yeah. I've got so many favourite.
You've got a
really.
passion about it, haven't you?
I love it. I used to make up a tea with all of this.
Did anyone get that joke, or is it too?
It was, we just ignored it because it wasn't that great tea. It was very dad
I was
joke.
going to get a laugh for that.
So really, really good for nervous restlessness, anxiety, insomnia.
Yeah.
It's really good at helping to calm things down. It's a mildly sedative, mildly. Very good for just relaxing, sleep onset, which so if you struggle to fall asleep.
Yep.
And it's good for sleep maintenance. So if you struggle to stay asleep, so if you're waking throughout the night, it can help with that as well. So
Really good for the overactive mind.
yeah, good for tachycardia as well, so fast heart rate.
Now, can I give you my favourite herb?
Yes.
Withania or astragala. It's absolutely ashwagandha.
Yeah.
It's almost said andrographis.
Well, that's your other favourite one.
Yeah, I like that one too. But astragandha or withania is great because, all right, I'm an old man, helps me with that area, helps me lift weights at the gym, boost testosterone, boost thyroid. But what does it do to help your mind?
So it's very good for, again, it can be mildly sedative if you're having it in high doses, but very good. It's very anti-inflammatory. It's immune modulating. We've been through this so many times. It's good for improving fatigue, so it reduces fatigue.
Yep.
It's very good for physical stress, as we said, insomnia. It's a tonic, so in natural medicine, herbal tonic. So they're basically an all-over restorative for the body. It's good for low iron as well. So
because the most
iron.
research form, the KSM 66, is the one you got to look out for.
Yeah, that's
the one that's been researched. And this is
form.
one of those herbs you can take in the morning and the night.
Yeah, adaptogen. So as we said, they work in both ends, and they work on whatever's happening at the time. So withania, we all know, is great. Here's another one that people may not be.
What is it?
Ziziphus.
Ziziphus. I can barely say that.
Yeah, Ziziphus. So this is a really good one for sleep issues.
Yes.
So for anxiety, very, very good for anxiety.
Yep.
So if someone this is actually used to be traditionally very good for postmenopausal women or perimenopausal, so that getting the sweats at night, that sort of thing, and that insomnia. So it can be really good for that, or people that get anxious and gets the sweats with anxiety.
Yes.
It's good with reducing that. It's very good for sleep onset issues. So if you're laying there at night going, I just can't fall asleep, very good for that as well. It's mildly sedative as well. And when I say sedative, it's not like a pharmaceutical sedative. It just chills you. You don't suddenly go, oh, my God, I'm just so dopey. It just takes an edge off and you feel a little bit more calm and relaxed. So, and it's good for high blood pressure, Ziziphus as well. So palpitations again, as I said. So, yeah, really, really good for chilling you out. So
Nice.
So passion flora, California poppy, skullcap, withania, really good for sleep. Yeah,
give me
really
some.
nice sleep
Give
with
me
those
some.
ones. Yeah, so
Give me. Love it.
yeah, so they're really good. And then we have some. Oh, we also have our Siberian ginseng, which we did a podcast on. Which has come out. That's
bloody
amazing.
good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, people don't use that enough. So it's immune modulating. So as we said, a lot of stress will suppress the immune system or dysregulate it. So it's very good for that. Physical stress, as we said, fatigue, convalescence. So if you're recovering from illness and things like that, mild depression as well. So low moods, really good for that sort of thing as well. Viral syndromes as well, so the viruses, but very good for that stress response and that depleted type person.
Yeah, the chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia type.
Yeah, so that's good. And then Schisandra is the other herb that we love. We love Schisandra.
Gimme.
Great adaptogenic, nervine tonic. It's very good for the liver. So it's hepatoprotective. It's also mild antidepressant as well.
Yep.
Improves physical performance. As you know, we've talked about that many times. And it's very good for the effects of overall stress in the body as well. So they're really good ones.
So nutrients, vitamin C and the B vitamins, really good as well?
Really good. Always look at those when we're looking at the stress, depletion, that sort of thing. Vitamin C, it's one of the organs that has the most vitamin C.
The adrenal glands?
Adrenal glands, sorry. Yeah. So really important to replace your vitamin C, so you can deplete that very quickly when you're under a lot of stress.
The B vitamins, they have to be activated B vitamins.
Yeah, so activated is better. So there's different forms of Bs. So the activated form, so there's methylated. We've talked about MTHFR and people can't methylate. And then there's activated, so it's a little bit different. But it just means that your body can utilize them without having to go through extra processes.
Yes.
So if people do have MTHFR polymorphisms or any issues, it's a better form to take because you will still be able to get that in and absorb that. So, but B is really, really important. And the B complex, so you want the full spectrum because you get the best benefit. They work synergistically. So, but they're very good for nervous system function. So they help to calm the nervous system. They help to give you energy. They're very good for adrenal function, all that sort of thing. So you want the full spectrum of Bs as well.
I'm going to ask you a weird one. There's this stuff in green tea called L-theanine.
Yeah, L-theanine.
What do you know about that?
So L-theanine is also amazing for stress response.
Yeah.
So calming the nervous system, calming an overactive mind. So what I love about L-theanine is it's calming, but it helps you focus at the same time. So it's not sedating, but it just helps to level everything out and get you more focused. So when you drink a cup of coffee and you can get the jitters and the shakes because it's spiking it's a stress response that spikes your blood sugar. So you're getting some of those symptoms some people can get from coffee. Green tea, it has got caffeine in it, but you don't get the same response because the L-theanine actually blunts cortisol. So it helps to reduce high cortisol levels. So having some green tea can be really good. So getting that L-theanine in there, very good for helping that to combat that
which is rich in green tea
as well.
I find it remarkable. I mean, there's all these herbs that are provided by nature and Bs and vitamin Cs and all this sort of stuff. And take them after you do your hygiene stuff, your exercise, your good diets, your good lifestyle things, the breathing exercise you talk about. These can be added on beautifully.
Definitely. So, do all the lifestyle stuff. And we always say that diet, exercise, everything first. And then, you can take your Bs in the morning and, say your Siberians and those sort of things in the morning because they help to give you energy, but they keep you calm. And then take these really nice calming herbs before you go to bed. So your passion flowers, California poppies, first things like that, and help calm you at the end of the day. So you're kind of bookending yourself. Yeah. You're sort of giving yourself some nice energy so you can get out there and do things, but in maintaining that sort of good stress response throughout the day. And then at night, you're sort of turning everything down and chilling out with these herbs can be really good.
I reckon that's superb advice because, I like the priorities there because, look, we're a supplement company. We want to sell you supplements. Screw your lifestyle thing. But as far as the reality goes, we're naturopaths.
Yeah.
So you've got to do your lifestyle stuff first.
Got to.
Don't go for the quick fixes.
Yeah.
Get out of the rut you're in.
Yeah.
If you're not happy, improve yourself. No one's going to pull you out of it. It's got to be yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can't, listen to there's plenty of podcasts to help self-help. If you're a guy or a girl, there's specific for those. And also, of course, listen to our podcast every week.
Listen,
but goes without saying.
We're talking to ourselves otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. And but then these herbs can be added on.
They're amazing, yeah. And these will then help to push you even further into that more balanced state. So get all your foundations right and then add in these herbs and nutrients, and that's really going to help to get you on track. So
kick ass. Well,
we can't specify enough, manage your stress, people, because it's, as we've pointed out, it can have some hugely detrimental effects if you have chronic stress.
It shortens your life.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not being melodramatic about that. It really shortens your life.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's about all we've got time for.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week, and hopefully it won't be so stressful, the topic next week.
Yeah, but hopefully be nice and stressed. Stressed, calm down, not stressed out.
All right, well, we'll see you
Chilled out.
We'll see you next week, chilled people, and yourself.
See ya.
See ya.